Right, hello everybody. Let's have a look at some of these smaller cap coins, shall we, today? So we're going to start with Bitcoin. We're going to move on to SXP, Matic and Harmony One. So 3 coins with big potential. And actually, some of these bounces on especially Harmony One and SXP have been phenomenal. And they've been brilliant. In fact, they've been almost a 2x bounces. You know, if you caught those last 2 bounces on SXP, you'd be up about 150%. There's some really big moves to be making here. The question is, are they going to make some more moves? Where is it going to go from here? Is there going to be another correction? Are we going to be able to buy another dip? Well, let's have a look, shall we? So first of all, to understand what's been going on, the Dixie, the dollar, has dropped massively. Fell from the sky on what appeared to be a kind of a bullish move, which has completely failed and is coming back down to probably test these lows down here at 92.66, which means that we've got a little bit further to go across the board for some of these pumps. So we're talking pumps not just for crypto, Bitcoin, we're talking about gold, silver, Nasdaq, stocks in general, oil, the lot. And if you haven't watched my video on it, you can trade all of those on Bityard as well as all your cryptocurrency. Absolute gem of a margin trading platform. I've moved all my stuff over from Bybit to this. For many reasons. Anyway, I've made a video. There's a link above my head somewhere. Watch that video if you're interested, and there's a referral link clearly at the bottom of this video description. So without further ado, let's move on to the charts. So Bitcoin has rallied. Okay, so you can argue that some of that was off the back of the news, the 50 million in Bitcoin that was purchased by large institution with large institutional money. A bit more, I suppose, confidence into the market has been instilled from there, which is obviously good. But trading on the back of news is never such a good idea. But what it has allowed for this to do, and is allowing for this to do, is to form some more positive territory. We're above all major moving averages. We're actually currently above the Bollinger Band, which had pinched very tight actually here on the daily. So being brought back into there isn't an unreasonable demand. I would expect to see that. I wouldn't expect to see another rally of any massive significance right now, but it could happen. Obviously it could happen. The areas that I'll be looking for pullbacks or rejections from would be this area here, which is an upwards facing trend line of previous support and resistance that goes back all the way to 2017. Sorry about this, looking a bit messy there, but resistance there, supporting all the way there, resistance and support, resistance, and then recently we spent a long time, about a month, being rejected from there. We spent 1 day above it and then basically collapsed back down. And you can see the rejection took place basically from it. Retesting it, came back down, and then just collapsed from that. So on another video we measured out how frequently these often play out, and they generally play out with a degree of between 10 to 30%. All right, so you could argue that move has been made, and now we're up this level of this trend line here, which began over here and been very relevant recently. And so we've got a support trend line here and rejection potentially up here again. So this is like a rising wedge channel, I suppose, which technically, you know, statistically they often break to the down. They're more likely to break down than they would up, but only ever so slightly, so that's just something to be aware of. But for the moment the support looks reasonably strong. Bottom level here of support would be 10,725 if it would happen today or tomorrow, and up here with our rejection would be around about 12,200, thereabouts, very rough estimate. So where does this leave some of these? So let's have a look at SXP. Not the biggest chart in the world to look at, but you could say really that since this low here on the MACD we have been trying to accumulate more, which makes kind of sense because we made that cross around this level with the first bottom here. The RSI is extremely low at this level, so pretty much a decent buy signal, and it's unto itself. Money flow index sort of waving around. The RSI here doesn't look great because it was relatively constructive and then came down, but you could make the case that this could be a double bottom, and then this is where we're forming a basic uptrend that could be formed from here. We're more or less beneath all major moving averages. However, we are currently below, I'd say, all major moving averages, sorry. So it's not looking great, but the dips on these are worth buying in my opinion, and I have been buying them. So we bought our first dip, or I bought my first dip around this level, and sold it to around about that, so 65% there, but you could have taken it further. You could have got about 70% on that one, and just recently, so we bottomed out again here, and again another 30% there. So that's doubling your money without really even thinking too much about it. I think levels down at this, if we were to get down there again, is a certain buy. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, but this is an epic opportunity to be buying this down at low prices, even if we don't expect it to make big runs. Now, we were rejected before we got to the green 50 exponential, which is downwards facing, so that is always going to be a problem. It means that profit taking needs to be taking place before we reach that green 50, just to be safe. That's how I'll be playing this one. Let's move on to Matic then, shall we? Because we loved Matic on this channel. We've traded Matic for pretty much its entire time on Binance. Well, we kind of neglected it recently, not really looked at it. We were trying to hold this blue box territory, and we broke down beneath it quite significantly, actually. And normally what happens is this blue box here will suck you back up into it. We spent over a month dancing around this area between 1.85 cent to 2 cent. So coming into it, bouncing, this was a trading range into itself. Very strong, in fact, no wicks and no candle bodies closing beneath it this entire time. However, it was being tested over and over and over again, and which basically made it nice and easy to trade. Any wick that came below here was a buy, at least to sell up at 2 cent or try and trade it above. Unfortunately, this time round, that's not really happened, and it's gone very bearish. So we got above this trend line again, which is the trend line that from the breakdown in March. But then when we broke down beneath there, it was very significant, and you can see that obviously that trend line does represent a significant turning point for Matic. And we broke down from there. We tried to bounce back into this trading range, and we had candle bodies closing beneath it, which is a very scary sign, because this is supposed to hold us tight and steady, but it didn't on this occasion. We struggled to even get back into it. So what does this mean now? Well, we're beneath all major moving averages and actually being rejected from the 10 EMA, which is not a good sign. We've also got a death cross here taking place on the daily, which usually would signify more downtrend, but I mean, you got to read into that what you can. This is the first actual, I mean, we did have a death cross here, but I mean, that was after a calamity event. This is the first death cross that Matic's ever really had on its own. Okay, it's avoided having a death cross for a long time. Even after this move here, we got our golden cross, but we avoided having a death cross. So we have actually had our first death cross on Matic. So we don't have anything historically to go back on to see how it's going to react to that. It could be invalidated if we rallied all the way up and above 2 cent. There would still be a death cross. There's no getting away from it. But you know, that could happen. We don't know how vulnerable it is to these kinds of technical analysis. But aside from that, we're beneath the 0 point significantly with a negative cross on the MACD. The RSI is not making any conscious effort to make any kind of there's no higher highs or lower lows. It's just a wiggly worm there that's not doing anything of any significance. So unfortunately, unless you're a believer in the project or a long-term hodler or buying it for staking, I would have to wait this one out and see where it goes. Death crosses usually mean that there's more downside to be had, but who knows? And there is obviously always that chance that this could, that Bitcoin could retrace all the way back down to this trend line. I mean, we've come down about 1.5% from its top already. This could be a fake out. The whole thing was based upon news. The volume on Bitcoin isn't extremely high or anything. I mean, it's pretty mediocre to have a move like that. So there is always that chance of a relatively harsh retrace, and that, given the dominance chart that we're looking at here, would suggest that alts get punished again and again and again, and Matic could be brought back down to these lows where it just bounced from the other day, and maybe even lower. As far as any buy-in targets are concerned for Matic, I would be very, very, very interested if we came down to 1.2 cent or just above. Those levels have shown significant bounces in the past. 1.2 cent to 1 cent has been pretty bold for Matic. Everyone's trying to get in there before the 1 cent, but the 1.2 cent is like a front run equivalent, and we've seen big bounces from there. So I would be very interested in buying it at those levels, because I still think that Matic has got quite a long way to go. Price wise, I'm pretty confident that we'll find ourselves a new all-time high next year, and maybe even beyond, with or without developments in the technology. I think that's just the nature of the chart. It's more or less a flat line with giant big pumps in it. But at the moment it would appear that this one has it could just basically fall down because of that death cross. So I'd leave it for the moment. That's me personally. I would leave it. Harmony 1, excellent pump and dump mechanism going on here. So basically this fell completely to pieces from its all-time high. You could argue this is massively overbought at this point. Came down 68%. Now the MACD has, again similar to SXP and the RSI, found nice bottoms down here. You could argue this is also a double bottom like SXP. The money flow index peaked down below there as well, which would have been a bit of a false signal. But I would say that at this level now, it's the same way of trading this as SXP. This one wants to bounce every time it hits these lows. If we were to come back down to these lows, I would say this would be a great opportunity to buy and bounce from. What kind of move could we expect? Maybe a 20%, 25% perhaps move is what we seem to be getting around these levels. And then it's up to you. The Bollinger Bands are tightening quite a lot at these levels now, but again we've got Death Cross incoming. It's not yet taken place. Death Cross incoming here. The MACD is showing a period what I would say would look like accumulation, and the RSI is much more constructive than that of Matic. But again, you've got Death Crosses coming for all of these altcoins at the moment, which makes me a little bit wary, and I'm very difficult to want to buy and hold for any prolonged periods of time. Buying dips, selling bounces, that's all very well and good, but holding altcoins for any prolonged period of time, a little bit scary at the moment. So as it stands at the moment, that's how I'm looking at all of this. Bitcoin taking the lead, possible fake out, no higher than 12,200 before significant rejection. If it breaks above there and continues, then we're in bull market territory, full stop. Dixie has allowed all of these assets to bounce, and will continue to do that likely through the weekend. Maybe get a little bit scary tomorrow as we're waiting to see what happens on Monday, but still, with the state of the Dixie at the moment, there's no reason why it should bounce from this exact level. It should come down a little bit further, so we should be able to enjoy the party, but be very careful. And always, for me personally, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't advise you about any of this. It's very important to be taking profits and not getting too greedy. 20% here, that's a very good move. You buy these dips, sell at 20%. Yep, it could go up 30%, it could go up 50%. But you've made 20%. You can't go wrong with that. You've taken your profits. It's better than buying it and not selling and then coming back down to where you bought it from or lower. So, like I say, the party is in mid-swing. And again, if you want to join my Telegram, there's links below. If you want to set up to Bityard, I suggest you should do, even if it's just to practice on the demo account before you start going hard and heavy and balls deep with your actual hard-earned cash. But the options of being able to do indices and commodities as well as cryptocurrency is an absolute beauty, an absolute gem, and I've not seen any do that before. Plus, it's got the lowest fees out there, so more money in my pocket. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.